we've had theft. Joe caught a thief. One time, Joe caught a thief. Tell the story of you catching a thief. What's going on? I'm Dave.
And I'm Joe.
And we own a retro...
Okay, let's try it again.
A retro video game store in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And today we're going to be talking about some of the challenges of owning this store. I will preface this by saying that, our store is very unique. We're only open once a week. We are located inside a flea market, and we've already discussed this in another video, but we are a legit store. We pay taxes.
We are real. We exist.
We are real. What are some of the challenges of our game store? We have a Google Doc, and we write our notes down because otherwise we'll totally forget.
Because we're old and we can't remember stuff.
What are the challenges of owning a game store? Making sure it's stocked with games. Okay, yes. Thank you very much. See you later. That's the only challenge.
So speaking of that, so our first point is obviously the challenge of any store in our type of business is keeping good stock or having enough stock, getting the things in that sell regularly, because we're kind of beholden to the local community to supply us with stuff. So for example, we can't just go order 5 more copies of Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo when we run out. So there's no real wholesale model for us. Yeah, boom, add to cart. Nice.
Add to cart, please come to the store and then we'll sell those.
That would be great. For us, the challenge is always keeping in those popular items that sell regularly and sell well for us. We do price everything competitively so that it will sell. So I think a lot of times we'll be low on something just because I think our prices are very fair, and popular stuff does sell out sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
And we basically have to wait for another copy to either be traded in, sold to us in a collection.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's probably our biggest challenge, and any store will tell you that.
Yeah, like the number one challenge is keeping old retro stuff in the store, great carts. Stuff that's old. like we have a lot of 360, we're getting PS4, we're getting PS3, we get a lot of that stuff, but getting the really old stuff from the 80s and 90s is the biggest challenge, right? Like Joe said, there just isn't a place that you could just go to grab this stuff. Mm-hmm. You have to have clients come and trade with you, you have to buy large collections, and we get people that message us all the time wanting to sell stuff, and we almost know sometimes from the way someone messages us or the title, or hey, I'm looking to sell some stuff from my collection. You're just it's weird. If it's going to be this or that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge is definitely making sure that you have those core titles, the stuff that people want.
So buying large collections. So obviously, when we get the opportunity to quote or buy a large collection, we're obviously very excited and very happy to do so. Yeah. But there's a lot of work that goes into that. A lot of times people don't send you a complete list, or they just send you pictures. We make the list ourselves. And again, I don't begrudge anyone for doing this, because it's literally a lot of times it's their first, they've got a bunch of stuff and they want to get rid of it. It's not like they're something they do all the time.
Well, and that's another side challenge is when people want to sell you stuff, some people will send us an Excel spreadsheet with all the games.
Yeah.
Some people will send us just some pictures that are really blurry and really hard to see, right?
Yeah.
And we basically and Joe will say this in every email. He'd be like, the more we see, the more we can pay.
Well, of course, yeah. If I don't know what's there, I can't assign a dollar value to it.
So when you're buying a big collection, part of the challenge is how it's presented to us. Mm-hmm. But also the other thing about buying a large collection is you're often competing with other stores. You want to make sure that you're offering the most that you can. So that's why seeing more of it or having it listed helps, right? Well,
and the condition too, right? A lot of times, if we get a list of stuff, we can make you an offer, but if you show up and if it's a disc-based game and none of the manuals are there,
or it's been chewed in the corner by a dog.
Yeah, exactly.
We should just collect those games and put them somewhere. Yeah. The amount of games that have been chewed by a dog.
The wall of shame.
Yeah, the wall of shame of you didn't want your dog. Yeah, so buying large collections, that's. I also say and maybe this is more recently, but just getting those big collections, because I feel the last year or so it's been harder to get them.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of that is due to the pandemic too. I think that reignited a lot of people's passion for accumulating stuff, because they couldn't go out and spend their money on other stuff. Mm-hmm. I think now things have been open up for a while. I also think just like in our area at least, everything's really expensive now. So I think a lot of people are going to look at physical stuff they have and start to either downsize or just get rid of stuff.
That's true.
So I could see that coming back. But yeah, I feel like they're fewer and far between. I find now it's more of like someone comes in with a system and a few games. Like we're seeing a lot more of that and a lot less of the big collections.
That's true. One of the biggest challenges of owning a game store is dealing with difficult clients.
Yes.
And there's unfortunately they do exist, and like I think the price of success is actually having, you know, the more success you have, they're going to exist.
Oh yeah, as soon as people start talking crap about you online, you know you've made it.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's like the 1-star Google review. That's like the badge of honor. Like you've made it.
That's a video I made about we have 1-star review because someone had a terrible experience in our store, and
it's terrible because they didn't like the prices of the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say that's probably the biggest when you talk about difficult clients. I wouldn't even say difficult. I think it's like just ignorant or uninformed.
Yeah.
Because they come in, they see old stuff, they think it should all be cheap, and they think they're the only one that wants it. It's like, no, there's a lot of people like you who want this stuff.
The amount of people that want Def Jam New York City.
Yeah, Fight for New York, and then and then we're like, oh, that's like a $200 game, and they're like, what?
Yeah,
like they're so shocked.
And ours is like a little underpriced according to online values and like the local market, and like it's still like one of the challenges is dealing with people that don't know the current market. So if they come to your store, they want to buy their childhood games, and they come in, they find out these games are worth so much money, and they can't understand it. And then you try to explain to them that like these are collectibles now. Mm-hmm. There's only a few of them out there, or like they aren't everywhere. So and people are buying them. It's hard to explain that to people sometimes. And some people get it and some people don't.
Yeah, oh for sure.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like when I started collecting NES games like 10 years ago. And I thought, oh, it'd be fun to go get a full NES set. Yeah. I honestly thought I was the only person in the world that would want to get every NES game.
We were all doing that.
Yeah. And then you find out, oh no, there's like a bunch of people that want Little Samson. And that's why at the time it was like $400, $500, right? Now it's even more because people still want that. So I'd say, not even difficult. It's more like uninformed clients. Well, or people browsing who just don't know the market.
There are difficult clients, and you do get angry people, and I don't think it's anything that we've necessarily done. It's just it's in their nature. So you know, and you might see these people when you shop, or they're just around, and like it is sometimes hard to you know, I think just over the years dealing with bad clients, and I've worked in retail like my whole life. I know I used to work at Blockbuster when people would be there on a Friday.
That's a whole other video,
work.
By the way.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Blockbuster. People are like, what's Blockbuster? But like, you know, I'm very nostalgic for it now because I remember renting video games and movies. But like, people were grumpy. It was like, you know, Friday at 6 o'clock. They just want to get their movie and get out. You know, back when you had to wait in line for a movie.
All of our 30 copies of this movie are in, so come back next week.
Oh, we'd have guarantees, and like I worked at McDonald's, so like people were hungry. Like I get that, you know, not every client is in there that's like la 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 happy. Like, so we get those clients that come to our stores and like you just do the best you can. And I think like this isn't a difficult client per se, but a lot of people come to our store and they expect like bulk deals.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh, I'm gonna buy, like, what would you do if I buy these 3 games? And I'd be like, well, I've got 3 price stickers on them. I'll add them up, and then that'll be the total.
Yeah, especially like because going back to our first point, it's really hard to get inventory, and we're very competitive with our prices. So, and we have clients who come in and they'll buy 5 or 6 things, but it's all like high-end demand stuff that we have trouble keeping in stock. Mm-hmm. So for us, there's no real incentive to discount because we know it's going to sell at that price. So we're basically giving our profit away a lot of the times, right? So we just can't do that and then sustain ourselves.
There's a perception because we're in a flea market.
That
but
too.
Like a lot of the businesses in our flea market are their businesses, right? And like you just can't do it. And I get that maybe like there's a flea market that sets up every Sunday and it's different vendors every single week and it's like a garage sale atmosphere, but that's not the atmosphere in our store.
Yeah.
We price things competitively. We're the price is the price. And so some people are like, okay, cool. Some don't get it at all.
Yeah.
And so those are hard to deal with. And it's like, the way I look at things, and like I tell my own kids this, is like, you can ask any question you want, but sometimes you're not going to get the answer you want.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And just deal with it, right?
Yeah.
So those are the difficult clients. I mean, I've had a couple of people that have been angry in the past, and you know, it is tough, but that it's just there.
Yeah, you just learn to brush it off after a while. I think when we started, we were like people pleasers, and now we're just kind of numb to it because it's happened enough times.
You become numb to it. You're just like, meh. So
yeah, you're like, whatever, buy it or don't buy it, like, you know.
and I think also we've learned not to get into arguments with people about things, like especially
online.
Oh
no, just de-escalate.
If somebody doesn't like your offer, you're just, rather than being like, well, that's the price, like you're just like, okay, that's fine, cool,
move on.
Yeah, move on. You don't want to be like, well, you just, you know, or this person's offering me this. I'm like, I would take that offer if you're getting more. That's okay.
Yeah, and
we'll be fine.
And a lot of times by doing that, we actually end up getting the stuff eventually, because the so-called offer they had that was more, that person backs out, or it was never a real thing to begin with, and we'll end up, by being polite, they're still open to coming back to us. The last difficult customer thing I want to say, like I've noticed this a lot lately, it's like parents with kids and they're mean to their kids. So like as a new dad of a 2-year-old, it kind of hits me more now, and I notice it more because I know how I am with my daughter, and I just see parents who are there with their kids, and they're short. They're really short with their kids, or really rude with them. Or like we have one customer who comes in and she likes buying games. Her dad is always steadfast, like you have to give her a deal. And again, we're kind of explaining, like, you know, like our prices are good. We don't need to discount them. Yeah. And then he'll be upset at her for buying stuff from us, and she's very nice and well spoken, and her dad's just not very. Her dad's just not very nice. So so parents who are not nice to their kids, or like you said, short with their kids. I find that affects me more than it used to now that I'm a dad. Yeah, totally. You feel bad for those kids, right? Like you wonder what their whole life is like. So that's a tough one.
Yeah, another challenge is, like, you know, like finding time to process our stock. So because we both work full-time jobs during the week and we're only open on Sundays, we have to do all this in the evenings or the weekends, and it can be a challenge. I think we both found our groove over the years, and like we find, you know, we carve out time to do things. We have somebody who repairs our broken items now.
That's been huge. Yeah.
That's been huge.
Having Peter fix our stuff.
Man, like Peter's been fixing stuff for us for the last couple of years, and it's huge. It also allows us to buy broken stuff and take the risk that we can fix it.
Oh, for sure, because we used to just not take it in.
We would just pass on it.
You're upsetting somebody because they think it has some value, but for me to spend 5 hours trying to fix something and then do it wrong, like, you know, we just don't have that time. So.
We don't. The inventory system. So like, this is like an ongoing. So like multiple times a week, people will be like, "Do you have an online inventory system? Do you have an online?" And like, I know we live in this world where you just go online and you just, and it's like we don't, like, to input every single item that we sell into an inventory system would take man hours that we don't have.
Yeah, you need to be like a full-time retail location with a staff that you're paying salaries to, which again would drive up our overhead, drive up our prices. Yeah. So we're pretty lean, which is an advantage, but then the disadvantage is, so when someone asks for something, sometimes we know if we have it. A lot of the time, if it's something obscure, it's like, well, we'll have to check. Yeah. Or like, we're not sure. The thing I hate too is sometimes someone comes in and asks if we have something, and we do a pretty good job of keeping our sections clean and alphabetized. And I'll just say, like, there's one customer, and actually I hope he doesn't watch the channel because he's going to be so upset. I'm sure you've talked to him. He comes in once every other month, and he asks for the Ireme Skins game on the Super Nintendo. It's just like a golf game. It's like a $10 game. No, it's either that one or Hal's Hole-in-One Golf.
I think it only shows up when you're there.
So he came in a few weeks ago and he's like, "Do you have this like golf game?" And I'm like, "No." Like I scanned the shelf quickly, and I'm like, "No." Like, and it's not a notable game that I would remember us getting.
I know the game.
And then he leaves, and literally like I'm not gonna lie, like 10 minutes later, some other guy like puts it on the thing, and I was just like, no. Like, so I felt so bad for the guy because I'm like, follow us online if you see it. And I've been talking to this guy for like over a year and a half.
Oh,
so
wow.
if I could have just looked it up on the inventory system, I'd be like, yeah, like I definitely have it. I would know to look for it.
And we get a lot of people that are like, okay, I'm like, there was a lovely mom that was in last week, and you know, she wants the Kirby's Epic Yarn for the Wii.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's like, I know they sold tons of copies of this game. We just don't have any right now, and we actually don't get it that often.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Well, can you let me know when you get it in?" And people always say, "Hey, I'm looking for this game. Can you let me know? Can you let me know?" And unfortunately, my answer is no to these people, because I can't just write your stuff down on a list, and then how am I going to know when I get it in to who to contact, because we don't have that inventory system. So
we don't have like a customer database.
We don't have a customer database, yeah. So it's like, the best I can say is follow us on Facebook and Instagram. If you see something, that we post, ask to put it aside. You can prepay for it. You don't have to pick it up the following Sunday. You can pick it up a month later. It doesn't matter.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, and a lot of people do that. So, at least we do that. Everything that goes in the store, we post pictures of.
Yeah. So. For that one, we'd love to have an inventory system. Number one, very expensive to buy, test it, implement it, make sure it's working. And then the work when you get stuff in to enter it into inventory. It would just be like, we just don't have the time to do that.
That's right.
So unfortunately, not for now.
And to the next point that we were going to talk about here, this whole idea that like nobody wants to come in and browse anymore. Everyone wants to know the answer of something before they've come in. And it's so sad, because like I'm not a big fan of shopping in general. I will fully admit that. But going to a retro video game store, it is fun. You're in an environment that you like. Like if there's certain stores that like I like hockey, so I like actually going into like sports stores and like seeing all the different sports and hockey equipment and hockey sticks. Like I'm never like, oh, I want to get out of here, And I would never contact the owner and be like, are you selling this one thing? But you get a lot of people that they just want to know the answer before they come in. They don't want to browse.
Yeah, I understand like if you live far away and you're coming for something specific and it's for like a birthday or Christmas or something, I get that part. But yeah, for us, I mean, we've said it before, we were customers in our store before we bought the location. We used to both shop there, and I would never message the owner and say like, do you have this one specific game in stock? It was just an event for me to go on Sunday and go browse everything he had, see what was new, and buy a few things. And to me, that's part of the enjoyment, is just looking at stuff.
Just being there.
Yeah, for sure.
And then like, our store is, it is small. It's not that big.
Yeah.
It is packed to the hilt.
The hilts.
The hilt. Basically packed to the hilt.
The hilts.
To the hilt. This thing is packed to the hilt.
The hilts.
To the hilt. That's our thing. So we can't fit everything in our store. And it's also not even just that, it's not always displayed the way we want it to. Right? Like we have stuff that's like down low near the ground, that's good selling stuff, but we have nowhere else for it. We try, like, we only keep 1 or 2 copies of a game, maybe 3 if it's a super popular game, because there's just no room, and that's always an ongoing challenge. We just can't fit everything in the store.
Well, yeah, and actually, that's one I didn't think of that I didn't have on the list, but that's a huge drawback. So really popular games, we have 2 to 3 copies, but there's been the odd time where someone's bought an obscure game earlier in the day, and then someone else comes later in the day and they're like, oh, do you have this? And it's like, oh, I just sold one. I can get one from storage to bring it next week.
Yeah.
And then it's extra work to restock the store constantly, because you and I are having to go to our storage unit every week to put the games back in, because there's only a lot of games we only have room for 1 copy of it, right?
Yeah, like if you watch our weekly vlogs that we do, like when Joe and I are at the store, we film. Like before we go to the store, we always go to our storage unit and we grab whatever we sold the week before. If we have a copy of that game or the console, whatever, we restock it. And we started doing that because like 5-6 years ago, we were just putting everything in the store.
Well, and we had like games stuck.
And we'd have
in
like
front of the
10
counter
copies of like Twilight Princess for the Wii. And we're like, we're not going to sell 10 copies in a day. So we thinned it out. And by thinning it out, we were able to put the maximum amount of games in the store. However, we still can't fit everything in there.
Especially with the pandemic, there were capacity restrictions we had to adhere to. So like at one point, we had like a lineup to get in, which wasn't ideal. Yeah. And there's still people who will show up at our store, see that there's like, if there's 7 or 8 people in there, it's packed, right? So a lot of people still don't feel comfortable going into a crowd like that. So they may leave and not come in because our space is so small.
Yeah.
Or they can't get to a section they want to get to.
But we still limit the store to 8 people, and it's not because of pandemic restrictions, but it's because of theft.
Well, yeah, that too.
But like that's another
there's another challenge.
No, but it's true. It's such a weird thing because Joe and I have just come to accept that we're going to have some theft, and it's unfortunate. If you want a retail store, it's going to happen. Like we open cases and discs are gone.
Yeah.
Or like a couple of months ago, I walked in and a PSP, the PS Vita was stolen. And actually, it's funny, last week I was working, and one of the Switch consoles was missing. And I was like, what?
Oh.
And like, I immediately got angry because we had 2 Switch consoles. And then like, I looked down and like, it had fallen.
Oh, okay.
I was moving some stuff around.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, good, that's my bad. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to talk about how we lost a Switch. And I'm like, this is becoming a bad...
I thought you were going to say you found the Vita.
No,
like under the counter or something.
Oh, it'd be hilarious if I found the Vita. No,
Yeah.
I think the Vita's gone. Theft. Joe caught a thief. One time, Joe caught a thief. Tell the story of you catching a thief.
Well,
the abbreviated version.
This guy was really terrible at stealing stuff. So, the thing is, he had a good plan though, because what he would do is he would message us with a trade offer, and then he would show up. And this is when Frank worked every Sunday. It was before like we started working.
Yeah, we would be there like to support Frank for a few hours.
Yeah. So I happened to be there in the morning, so this guy didn't know who I was, but he would come in and trade stuff. And then he would trade while we were looking at his trade. He would steal stuff and then buy like one thing. So like you didn't suspect him. But this time he came in the morning. I remember I just filled the GameCube section and I just filled the Super Nintendo section. And then like I noticed Super Nintendo games missing and GameCube games missing, and he was the only one there, and like no one else had bought anything yet. So I was out on the floor restocking. He didn't know who I was, and I just stood beside him. And then I saw him grab another GameCube game, throw it in his pocket. So I grabbed him, and I remember I swore at him. And then there was a lady with her like little kid beside him. And then so I had him, and I looked at her, and I'm like, oh, I'm really sorry for swearing. And then I just calmly walked him out and pointed him out to the other vendors.
No, but you were like thief. I think you said...
When I got outside of our area, though.
Because
Other people are going to see me escorting this guy out. And I think he was embarrassed, so he wasn't really like resisting. It was like the gentlest escort out of the building I think there's ever been.
He was caught red-handed.
Yeah. And I mean, I was so subtle about it. Frank didn't even notice. Frank was helping another customer, and I just kind of escorted the guy out. But yeah, I mean, and it sucked because he was a regular who we trusted.
Yeah. And
unfortunately, because of that, we had to move a lot of the more expensive stuff behind the glass case, which
it's unfortunate,
isn't ideal.
I think it also you learn, right?
Yeah.
So we learned, like, we used to keep like literally games that were $100 out on the floor. Well, and we changed that.
Yeah,
because of him.
The problem though was because when the pandemic started, the GameCube games that were like $40, $50 just shot up.
Yeah.
And we had just adjusted the prices, but we still left them in the same spot, right? So
we
learned a lesson.
But I think we learned a lesson from him, which is like, don't have your crazy expensive stuff out there. So, we do get empty cases open once in a while. Like, I mean, we do. I guess games are stolen. It sucks. We do our absolute best. All 3 of us watch the store as best we can, but that's another challenge of owning a game store. So
and for us to put cameras in. Number 1, that would be expensive, and then number 2, like, do you or I have like time to sit there and watch footage for hours on end to find out who's stole a $20 game? Right?
I got a backlog on Netflix. I gotta watch.
Yeah, exactly.
I got stuff I gotta watch.
You don't have a job that you do.
No. I just I got stuff I gotta do. So anyway, those are some of the challenges that we have for our game store. So we appreciate you watching, and
cheers, guys. Cool. Thanks for watching.
Take care. I think that's the last one. Oh, low battery. Hopefully it's still filmed.